By listening to this podcast, you're already taking steps on the path of improving your business readiness. Nice work. Got a question? Well, we'd love to hear from you. Submit your questions at masterypartners.com and look for the red Business Owner Hotline button. And as you think about today's episode, remember, the decisions you make every day as a business owner are either building value in your company or quietly eroding it. So here's a question to take with you. What decision will you make tomorrow that builds value in your business? Now go get it done. At Mastery Partners, we're the people that make companies more valuable and more transferable. Our guides help business owners build companies that's ready for whatever comes next. And if you want to see where your business stands, visit masterypartners.com to learn more about the Transition Readiness Assessment. So until next time, keep maximizing business value.
Welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast. I'm Kim Bentson, business owner, operator, and honestly figuring out all of this along with you. And today's question for our Business Owner Hotline series was sent in from a business owner in Frisco, Texas, and it's a really good one. And the question is, how do leadership gaps affect valuation? Because if you're anything like me, you're busy, things are moving, you're making decisions, solving problems, overcoming challenges all day, every day. But what's not always clear is, are these decisions actually building value, or am I quietly derailing my value in my business? And so this year, like I mentioned, we're bringing real questions from real business owners and putting them in front of our certified partners at Mastery Partners to help all of us get clear answers. And today we have Dave Casey representing the partners today. So welcome, Dave.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
I hope you won't be too tough on me. So,
Right. Dave helps a lot of business owners, so he can handle pretty much anything. If you have a question on your mind, just go to our website at masterypartners.com and you can submit it. There's a button right there, and it might be featured in a future episode. So let's get into today's question of, how do leadership gaps affect valuation? So Dave, when a buyer or advisor looks at a business and spots a leadership gap, what are they actually seeing?
yeah, that's a great one. So that's obviously that's going to be a red flag. Okay. I think you have to go back to why people buy businesses, right? And there's different motivations. You might be buying a small business to make it part of a bigger business. You might be looking for a business that's profitable, that's going to provide you some revenue and income for the next several years. It may be just, I want to get into a new industry and I want this type of business. It's interesting. I talked to a guy last night that's exactly his motivation. He had a business before, he sold it. He's been doing some other stuff, but he's keen to buy another business to run. He really wants to do that. And so one of the big things you look at when you're looking at a business is, what's it comprised of? Is it a one-man show or one-woman show that does everything, or is it a vibrant business with a full team of people running the business, and who does what, and who reports to who, and all that kind of stuff? All those things are super important. So again, most buyers, they want to buy a business for what the business will do in the future. Everything the business has done up to now is kind of history, and it's good to know financials, good to know the market they're in, the products and services they're selling, profit margins. Let's get a good look at the team, the people, and who's in the business. But one of the big red flags is that if your management team isn't gelled, isn't there, first of all, that you've got key management people in each of the sections of the business and they're all working together, and there's this division of labor. Essentially, you've got sharp salespeople in the sales department, you got sharp financial people over in accounting, so on and so forth. So that those are the types of things a buyer looks for. And and if there's something missing there, it becomes pretty apparent, when examination is done. Uh, and unfortunately, what we see in a lot of businesses is if it's an owner-led business and the founder, they founded the business, they've grown it, they've nurtured it. Um, there's things that owner or founder is doing that probably they shouldn't be doing. You know, it's probably something that they like to do. They might be an engineer and they founded an engineering company and they love engineering. So they've got their fingers in projects and engineering projects. But they're the owner and the CEO. They should be doing CEO things, so.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when I think of valuation or a business valuation, um, I think most people, and I know I used to assume this, that valuation is really just about revenue and are you profitable and you have something that somebody would want.
It's a
But
big component. Obviously, profit is always good.
yeah, but it's not just those things, right? I think that's
Yeah.
where sometimes business owners get blindsided in that process of, well, why they need to look at that and
Or
and
what does it
leadership.
matter who's doing that? Yeah.
Yeah. And um so leadership is an interesting component of that, don't you think?
Yeah, and again, ideally, and just kind of paint the picture of an ideal situation, a well-run company has strong leaders in each area. If strong leader in the financial department, strong leader in sales, strong leader in marketing, in production or engineering, operations, HR, all these different areas of the business. That adds tremendous value to a business. So an outside party looking at it can say, "Wow, I can look at the bottom line results. It's a growing, profitable company, but now I know why because of this strong team that's running it." Um, if you see some holes there, that becomes that becomes an issue, and you got to figure out why is there no defined chief revenue officer? And then if you start digging a little deeper, you might find, well, the owner, the founder of the company, he owns a lot of the important customer relationships because he started the company, he nurtured it, he brought it along, and he hired um, key people for all these other areas of the business because those aren't things he likes to do. May not like to do the books, so he hired a really sharp, person in accounting, but he loves to do sales. So maybe he's out there doing sales, and that's all well and good as long as he comes along with the company when he sells it, which is probably not going to happen. So
Right. So I get what I'm hearing is revenue helps, but leadership really tells the story of what is possible for the future of that business, and that's what buyers pay for is that future.
yeah, I think it's leadership and it's there's always a question of dependencies, owner dependency or customer dependency or supplier dependency. Um, and I think if when I had my company, we fell into this trap. So we started our company. We were reselling computer and communications hardware. So we were buying, for example, an IBM PC from IBM, and we're installing the software on it and we're selling it to a customer and providing it, to the customer. So we found ourselves after a few years, we found a supplier that we really liked and that really invested in us. They wanted us to be successful. So they would help us find business. They had a huge marketing department. We had no marketing department. So they would find leads for us and help us win business and we'd go out and close the business and they'd give us more leads and we closed more leads. So we got to be a very symbiotic relationship. But we looked down one day and that supplier represented 50% of our revenue stream. So now we had a dependency there, right? So that you don't want dependencies to exist. And that's an example on the supplier side. You can see it on the customer side, but it's also people within your business. So if you got somebody that's very key that a lot of the business flows through, sometimes that's the owner. Um, that's not good. So
Right. I think that hits close to home. I think a lot of business owners, and myself included, have become a bottleneck sometimes without even realizing it. Whether it's standards, whether it's like processes, standard operating procedure, which you want that, right? But it also is limiting and not really developing those leadership abilities in others if you have to have the final say on everything.
yeah.
Um, which is a hard dynamic because it is yours.
Well, and you kind of feel like,
So you feel like a little bit of ownership there, but that's really not a good way to look at it.
yeah, and
Um,
I think you feel like you can do it better than they can sometimes. So you're just going to do it. I mean, we're small, we're nimble, we got to get this done. I don't have time to teach them how to do it. I'll just do it. And then you do that over and over, and you kind of get in that pattern. Um, and then sometimes it's a situation that you're not letting people grow. You've hired somebody to do something, and yeah, they're not going to do it as well as you initially, or as well as maybe even the person that they're replacing. So you give them less to do, or you're less confident in them. Um, all with an eye that I want to take best care of my client, and we need the best foot forward. So, but they're not learning and they're not growing and they're not developing into a leader. So that becomes an issue. So
yeah, it's
definitely.
funny that you bring that up because in last week's episode with Gil Bean and Scott Kokenauer, we were actually talking about the investments that owner needs to make, the intangible investments in the team and people,
Yeah.
and how that builds value long term, not just for the financial exit or the future exit ahead, but also just your quality of living in as a business owner in this
Yeah.
world. It definitely eases the burden sometimes of that. Um, so I'm curious. I know you work with a lot of business owners and have been in business yourself and have seen a lot and then done a lot. But what does that leadership gap actually look like from the inside? Like, how do you? I know you can look at an org chart and you hear things. I'm just curious of what does that actually look like from the inside? That gap.
Yeah. I think there's a couple things. One of them might be just capabilities. You've got your team, and you always hear, well, you just got to make sure you've got the right people in the right seats.
Yes.
Well, that's an ideal situation, but sometimes you don't have the right people available to you. You just don't have the right people yet on your team. And so you've got people kind of sitting in the wrong seats, but for a reason. It's just because we don't have somebody else to do that. And so, and they won't, if they don't have a passion for whatever it is you're asking them to do, they're not going to develop into a leader in that area of the company, or at least they're going to be very reluctant to. And So that might be a situation where you just don't have enough resources. Well, let's say you do have enough resources, but you've now, um, if you haven't done what you kind of described, or you haven't mentored people, you haven't helped them, you haven't grown people, you haven't invested in them sometimes to make them better at what they do, um, and keep asking them, do you like doing this? Do you want to do more of this? Is your goal to become the leader of this area of the company? You should always have those conversations and don't make assumptions. Because some people are just really nice and you ask them to do something, I'll be glad to do that. So in your back of your mind, you're going, ooh, they must like to do that. But they may be just being accommodating. They don't really want to do that, but you asked them to, and they like you and they're going to do it. But so you have to really keep asking people what they really want, or what gives them energy and what takes energy away. And this is where you find this is a classic thing in sales, where you find a sales manager who was one of the top salespeople, and they were so successful that he or she got promoted to be manager. I mean, because we want to keep you. You're a great employee. You're contributing to the company. So whoop-de-doo, here you go. Now you're manager. And in the back of their mind, that might be the last thing they want. They know how they operate, and they're confident in their abilities, and they can calculate how much money they're going to make by their efforts. But now you put them into a situation that it may not be their skill set to bring the best out in other people and mentor other people and train other people and find out what their strengths are and play to their strengths and so on. They may just want to be an individual contributor. They may not want to be a manager. And we've analyzed a lot of companies where we find there's people sitting in seats because they're good and they're capable, but it's not what they want to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's a big revelation to the business owner, because, he took that accounts payable clerk that was so good and made them accounting manager, and they
Mhm.
hate their job as accounting manager,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And you don't want someone to hate what they're doing as a business owner because, um,
No, no,
so I
particularly in
can,
a small team, it's
especially a small team. Um, so there's two things I'm hearing. One is you have to have a plan. There needs to be a design
mhm.
for decisions, authority, roles, accountability, how all of that is structured. And I'm guilty of this as too. We bring on a new client, all of a sudden, boo, 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 we got to get going. We got just got doing, and process sometimes goes out the,
Yeah,
it's like fighting the fire there. But as a business owner, it seems like that design aspect is a huge part of having like creating that leadership so you don't have those
yeah,
gaps in leadership. Even if you don't have a CFO, there's someone who makes those decisions or has the authority to run
yeah.
payroll without the owner or whatever that is. And then the other thing you said um, is, you can have a strong team, but still have some gaps there. And that's where the value starts to drop because a lot of that gap is picked up by the owner.
Hmm.
And so,
Oftentimes, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Or
And
somebody else who's the star
yeah, well, and
person.
sometimes it's you got to know the whole backstory. So we just again back to our company when we were blowing and going. We had actually entered into a discussion with a bigger company for them to acquire us. And this is full disclosure, we did not ask for any outside help. That was our first mistake.
Yeah.
There wasn't a mastery partners around for us to ask about this.
Right, right.
So we're trying to do it on our own, and talking to friends, and what did you do, and all that stuff, but just all the stuff you're not supposed to do. So the
But that's what
anyway,
we do, right?
yeah, so of course.
Yeah.
And we had just lost a key employee. He was like employee number 6 at our company, maybe number
Well,
5. And he definitely left a hole, when he left. We didn't have we didn't, we weren't planning on him leaving. We didn't have a particular uh, you know, backup plan, a lot of things. So the company's running well, because the effect of him leaving hadn't really shown up yet. But the outside party was like, wow, I see this guy's name's on a lot of stuff around here. And where is he? We haven't met him. Oh, well, he's no longer with us. Oh, okay. Duly noted. They never asked any more questions. But when they came back with their offer, it was significantly lower, because they said, it looks like this key person that was involved in a lot of stuff is no longer there. So we're discounting our offer, accordingly. And they were partially right. I mean, we were set, so we really didn't lose a lot of revenue or anything with that person leaving, but it did cause a lot of disruption, and a lot of people had to take on different tasks,
Right.
and we had to do some customer saving and things like that. So, but it was so you have to kind of know the backstory sometimes of, if there are gaps, how did the gap occur? You know, was it, somebody, employee turnover happens all the time.
Right.
We would have been much smarter to say, I know you've done some analysis. We just lost a key person, but here's what we've done to, alleviate that, and here's
Right.
here's what's happening. And we actually found a couple areas we think we can improve, by restructuring. And had we been more forthright, we probably would have got a decent offer, in that particular situation.
Yeah. So when that happens, like in a deal and that happens to the value of the business, like you kind of mentioned, it was less in a multiple, let's say, or less revenue for the business just because of that one key leadership.
Mhm.
But aren't there a couple other things that impact if you have a leadership gap as far as when you put your business up for sale that can impact it if you have a leadership gap?
Oh yeah, if your mine was like an occurrence, right? But there can be, like, structurally, you're not set up right. You just don't have the right people. You're not departmentalized the way you should be. You may not have key leadership people in key positions within the company. Or you may have people, that are the wrong people in there. Or you may have the right people in there, but you just haven't enabled those people. You haven't done a lot to support them. Um, so there's a lot of aspects of leadership gap. Sometimes it's a telling thing that we use in our transition readiness assessment. It's just a quick question, but there's a lot behind it. We'll just ask the business owner, do you get your financials each month by the 15th of the month? And we just leave it at that. We don't go any big, and it's either a yes or a no. It, or it'll be well, usually, or it'll be, you know, we don't really need to look at our financials on a monthly basis. We'll get that answer, and we're just like writing down things in the background saying, no, that's very important, actually. So,
Right.
because you can't course correct if you don't know that you might have an issue. So you've got to get the financials as soon as possible. And they have to be good. They have to be accurate. They have to be good news, bad news, doesn't matter. We need to know, what's going on. Um, so there's so that and we can learn a lot about how the business is run by a few key questions like that. And that you usually will point to leadership gaps. If their finance side is not very strong,
Right.
and the financials kind of come in when they come in, or we've got a lot of corrections, we've got to restate some things, and these invoices didn't get entered, so we got to go back and recast January's numbers, and those are all indicators. And if we pick them up, a prospective buyer is definitely going to pick them up.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, I think too, you talked about the buying price dropping as one of the impacts, right, of a leadership gap, and which doesn't sound bad. I remember at Mastery we were talking about this business owner, and he did the TRA, and he's like, "No, I can't wait. I'm just ready to go." And I remember like the the possibility, like what he could have got if he'd fixed just even a couple of these things.
Yeah,
Uh, like his multiple could have been a 6x, but he I think eventually got a 3x, which still great, right? But then that was only one piece of that deal. The other part was, if I'm remembering, and I don't know if you remember this, but like the terms were not great. Like
yeah,
he had a earnout, which is, not ideal. Um, there was a lot, like he had to stay on for 6 months, which is not what he wanted.
yeah,
And and then there were a couple of buyers that just dropped out of the process because of that leadership gap. They were like, I don't want to buy a job. I'm buying an
yeah.
asset.
Yeah,
And
it's
so it
yeah,
gets really complicated. It's not just the money, right?
yeah.
But it can get really complicated.
It can, and it's and again, it's kind of if I only knew then. Uh, I was always on a quandary of we were a relatively small company. We were hovering around $10 million, and there were opportunities we had to invest in the company, to invest in some back end software platforms and some things that would make us better as a company, and certainly make it easier to run and easier to see and have visibility of everything. And but it was almost like that was a nice to have. We could still get the information the way we were doing it. There was more manual processes, some other stuff. Um, but and I was always in the back of my mind, well, if somebody buys me, they're going to be bigger than me anyway, and they're already going to have all their own processes. So this will be like a sunk cost. I'm just going to put all this money into the software platform that will get discarded when they buy me, right? So
Right.
I talked myself out of it. And in retrospect, um, if we had all that stuff, it would have made us much more visible and transparent. It would have made us easier to acquire and easier to integrate into their system. But I was short-sighted. I didn't really think about that. And the same thing applies to management. It's like, do I hire this relatively expensive key person, knowing that 2 years from now I'm planning to sell this company, and now I'm going to have to pay this guy salary for 2 years,
Right.
where that could have dropped to my bottom line, right? And but not even thinking about having that guy on the team may be the key thing that that buyer wants to see, or having people like that in my organization is what they want to see, and they'll attach more value to it. So I just, it's weird how you talk yourself out of things. So that's not a good thing. So
Uh, yeah, it's sometimes hard to write that check sometimes.
yeah,
There's a pain point there, and
yeah.
you just kind of sometimes have to like jumping in cold water. Sometimes you just have to do it and reap the benefits.
Well, and I
Um,
think too that the it's not just management and avoiding management gaps, but I think it's also quality of people that you have. So
right,
if you're constantly, I guess the real expression is top grading, you're constantly looking for better people. Not that you're going to get rid of the people you have, you might move them to other, areas of responsibility, but if you're constantly looking for the best of the best, and you want the best, you want people, you want to be talking to people all the time about joining your team that are the best of the best. Even if you may not even have a spot for them, or you're too small for them, or you're not, they're in a better position now than the one you can offer them. You still keep talking to them all the time, and you never know when circumstances might change. And it's always good to add a super person to your team, and so that you're building for that bigger future that you're going to have. You see, this guy's got, or this woman's got way too much horsepower for this position, but next year we're going to need her skill set big time. So let's get her on board and get things going, and we'll be ready to hit that hockey stick growth, that kind of
yeah,
thing. So
that's so
I think that's part of
interesting.
the equation too. Yeah.
Complicated.
It is. Oh gosh, yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can make this practical and give some business owners out there some help without giving away the genius of Mastery Partners. Uh,
I give it away every day, and maybe that's part of my problem.
yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Uh, I know it's. I think that's. This is kind of a little tangent, but I think that's the magic of Mastery Partners. Is every single one of them have been where you are and have made all those mistakes and not
Oh yeah,
mistakes, right? Like those wins, and they want to just pass that along and keep you
yeah.
from going off the cliff sometimes. And That's a good person to have in your boat, I think.
Yep.
That's my little mastery partners plug, I guess.
Yeah, that's good job. Yeah,
If
good summation. Yeah.
so, uh, so people listening out there, they're thinking, okay, I heard what Dave said about that person doesn't make a decision or that person is doing the job, and I've promoted them 4 times and keep giving them responsibility. And so I might have this problem. So what's a good first step to right? The first step is identifying that you have a problem, but what's a good first action step to take to start resolving some of this? Because it's a big enchilada there. We're gonna have to
Yeah,
cook it
yeah.
slowly.
Um, I think healthy organizations are always looking for ways to get better. And getting better may mean several different things. It may be adding more resources that makes us better. Costs a lot of money sometimes. Um, Making it easier for everyone to do their job. So if you invest in technology or you invest in training, um, you, those are things that will help people be more effective in their job and actually much happier with it. And then also just looking at, I think the, and I think of it in particular when I think of management challenges, right? It's just you have to constantly be interacting with each other to make sure that people are engaged and that they really want to do what you're asking them to do, that they are in the right seat. And it may be that they really sought out that I want that position. And then they've done it for 6 months to a year and they go, wow, why did I ever want this position? So you have to have that constant dialogue and communication internally. So a book that you're very familiar with, I know, is Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And it's worth every business owner reading over and over, because it really does strike a lot of these points of how to build a team, what apparently works but doesn't, maybe working behind the scenes that you don't realize, and things like that. So
Yeah. Uh, I love and hate that book because it's sometimes a mirror and like, oh, I sometimes have that reaction and that's not
yeah,
a good reaction.
or I am that person right there that
I'm like,
everybody's making fun of. So
can't remember the names, but I was like, oh, I don't want to be that. I know that's not good. That's not good. So,
yeah, there's a lot of resources out there for sure, but
yeah,
I think the first thing, particularly if you're a small, cohesive group, is to consciously do everything you can to improve communications internally and positive communications. I mean, it's more than going to happy hour every once in a while. It's really like, we start our EOS meetings, what's working, what's not working, that kind of thing. There's a cadence to doing all these things, and if you kind of get into that, I think those are ways that you can really help the organization quite a bit. And it should identify issues that maybe aren't apparent, or and again, things and people and circumstances change. So what was true yesterday may not be true tomorrow. And so you just have to stay on top of that. And I think that constant, good flow of communications back and forth is paramount. So
yeah, and part of those communications, and I absolutely hate this thing, and I am always like, why do we need to do this? But it is one of those things. It's job descriptions.
yes.
Like, what do you actually own?
Yeah.
And it's a document that keeps us on the same page
Yeah.
of, as a business owner, this is what I say you own, and you know that's what you own, and that helps us move forward and not create some of those, oh, they do everything or they'll just fix it, or and those
Yeah.
things really do hamper your business, because if your business only works because of you, you don't have a scalable asset. And and that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the design.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that accountability chart look like? And it's a huge part of it, and it's just something I think a lot of business owners
Well, or
I'll do that later. That's not that important. That
or
doesn't
even
really
if they've
affect
done
it.
it one time, it wasn't easy, so they never want to do it again.
Never update
Um, it's and actually last night I was at a presentation. The presenter was talking. Well, it's Mitch, that you know well, Mitch Felderhoff, super guy. He's presenting. He was helping a friend, kind of not even restructure their company. Just how can we use AI to improve their company? And everybody's like, well, how do you even start doing
it.
that? And he says, well, it's real easy. You just, we use the Claude recorders that work with Claude and other AI platforms. And he said, you just turn on Claude and you go around and talk to everybody. And you kind of ask them, hi, I'm Mitch. What do you do? And who are you? What do you do? How do you do it? Why do you do it? Who asked you to do it? You know, is it working or it's not working? Oh, what's not working? Oh, it used to work, but it doesn't work anymore. So I mean, this whole thing, and AI will capture all that. So it will build all those job descriptions based on what people are actually doing right now. And now you can compare that to what you thought they were doing or what you need them to be doing or what you want them to be doing, and make adjustments accordingly, right? So it's fascinating, that there's a lot of stuff that's out there to help at this point. And so that to me, that's an outstanding way to figure out, that very difficult job description equation.
Yeah, and just making it a priority. You're really, if you care for your people and your
Yeah.
company, you'll make the time to do that, because no one likes that they don't like to lack clarity, I guess.
Yeah, the clarity is huge, and that's the thing I focus on a lot, and it's part of it is, um, again, the assumptions we make, that somebody's good at this, they must love doing it.
Yeah,
Not
right.
necessarily always the case. So
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up. A lot of good nuggets in this one, Dave. And I'll just add this: sometimes the most important step in building value is seeing your business clearly for the first time. And that's exactly what tools like the transition readiness assessment are designed to do. And coaches like those at Mastery Partners that can highlight where you're building value and where you might be losing it, and help you guide through those sometimes challenging problems and issues.
yeah,
So, Dave, thank you so much. That was incredibly helpful. And I even took some notes on that, because I definitely have some gaps in my business.
yes,
Um,
I have many. That's how I'm so knowledgeable about gaps.
yeah. And to the business owner out in Frisco who submitted that question, thank you so much. That one was really good, and really uncovered a lot. And there's so much more to uncover. We're just touching 30 minutes of that. So,
Yeah.
and you business owners, if you're listening, thank you. And if you're asking these kinds of questions, you're already ahead of most of the people out there. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next time. And until next time, keep maximizing business value.
By listening to this podcast, you're already taking steps on the path of improving your business readiness. Nice work. Got a question? Well, we'd love to hear from you. Submit your questions at masterypartners.com and look for the red Business Owner Hotline button. And as you think about today's episode, remember, the decisions you make every day as a business owner are either building value in your company or quietly eroding it. So here's a question to take with you. What decision will you make tomorrow that builds value in your business? Now go get it done. At Mastery Partners, we're the people that make companies more valuable and more transferable. Our guides help business owners build companies that's ready for whatever comes next. And if you want to see where your business stands, visit masterypartners.com to learn more about the Transition Readiness Assessment. So until next time, keep maximizing business value